Hey y'all, just wanted to go over a quick little tutorial for those of you guys that might be interested in modding Bootable. I did something like this a couple years ago, but I had a request on this, so I'm just gonna go through real quick on some of the things you can do. It's pretty easy. A couple things. One, you have to know how to find the FFL folder, and so you'll want to go to your user, go to app data folder. And then in app data might be a hidden folder. So most of you guys that are in the leagues know this because we have to go here to paste our league and all, but the app data is a hidden folder. So you might have to unhide your folders in order to do that. Then go to local low is the folder. Then there will be a folder in there. Stout Castle Games, probably a ton of game folders in there. So look for Stout Castle Games, and then FFL would be for Broodable. So once you open that up, you'll have your save files, your resources folder, mods folder, and the way I had this titled, I haven't changed this, but the resources folder is actually a place where there are a couple of things you can mod, and then of course in your leagues you can mod your league files pretty easily as well. So first I'm going to open up this resources folder, show you a couple things. We have word lists. Some of you guys might word lists. These are the words that are used to generate a lot of the random kind of weird, crazy things that will happen in the weekly events. But we have this folder names, and originally it was just for the names. So in here you can actually click on it. It's a Word document that just has a bunch of names listed, about 10,000 or so I'm at right now. And so you can go in here and you can add as many names as you want. It's a text file. All of these are saved as text files. This one's just a standard text file. You can just open it with Notepad, and you can add as many names as you want, and basically you just have to make sure there's a space between each name. It will basically use each space as a separate name. So anytime you have a space, then it'll be a different name. It's a separate name. So that's the only thing that delineates these are spaces for this one. So you can copy massive word lists and put in here to add to the names if you want to. Now, one warning on some of this stuff is that when I do have updates, although I'm not updating quite as frequently for Brutal Ball right now, as I work on Brutal World, but sometimes updates will overwrite these files. So if you do make a lot of changes to these files in the resources folder, I do recommend that you back those files up. That way, when I go back and if they get erased, you can always have, especially if you do a lot of editing, that you can save these. Now, with the other files in here, we have Trash Talk, Exotic Variants, and the Education, like the colleges they go to and what they do. And these are actually moddable. These are, I'd say probably out of all these, the variants might be one that you want to mod. So I'm just going to open this up real quick. And the big thing is that I recommend that you use Excel to do this editing. You could probably do it in a Google Doc. Unfortunately, LibreOffice doesn't work that well. It's really challenging. That's what I used to use, but they had an update a while back, and I don't know, I found it very hard to use. But the big thing that you have to remember is that although this is a text file, you want to make sure you're saving it as a text file. When you open it and you close it, the big problem when you're doing any of this modding for this game is that these need to be tab separated, so TSV. So they need to be tab separated files. Now, in something like LibreOffice and all, and also in Google Docs, you can save them as tab separated values, and then you can rename them as a text file and it'll probably work. But if you use Excel, all you need to do is open the file in Excel, and when you save it, it will keep it as a text file, and it will keep tabs separating each of these. So tab separation is what you must have. Otherwise, it's going to screw it up. So I highly recommend using Excel if you're going to do a lot of modding with this. It can work with other things, but Excel works the smoothest. And so here you can take a look, and if you, so some of these moddable files, they don't have titles on him, but you can actually go in here and, like, if you wanted to make your own customizable variant, you basically just need to have one of the base racial names in there, and then you can put the variant name after it. and then you can say what bonuses and weaknesses it has. So the first two are bonuses and the second two are weaknesses. So you can see here, this is strength and strength. You could change this to, and it has to be all lowercase for these, and it has to be spelled correctly like what it is. So so like for here, they get a bonus in strength twice, and the human giant gets a bonus in strength twice, agility to drop once, dodge drop once. This is their base height. So you can see a human here, you can compare it for some of the others. And then these are the skin colors that they use. And you can just paste extra skin colors in here, and then you can save it. So pretty easy to mod. If you want to make your own custom variants, I highly recommend sharing them because we can add them to the base game if you have some variant ideas. But this is how you would edit that. So if you have questions about any of these files and you want to mess with them, like the education name or trash talk or whatever, trash talk's a little complicated, but I'd be glad to help with any of those. I'm not going to go through those over here, but feel free to go on the Discord, ask some questions, and I'll be happy to help with any of the editing. But what other people, what I think one of our Zero was requesting was editing files. So you can see a bunch of my league files here, and I'll just put up one here. I'll put up the BBFL copy of the league, that way if I screw something up, although it's pretty hard to screw it up, you can see all the different files in here. And you can go in and you can edit any of these. Again, for most of these files, you have to use Excel. The history file, you could go in and edit just as a regular text document, but most of these you need to use, it's the same format. So you could edit the schedule. You could edit these different things if you figure out what's going on. So question was about editing. Oh, come on, Dougie. And question was editing the players file. Hold on just a second while I try to get my dog to be quiet. Mabel, come here. Stop it. All right, so dog interruption there. You can take a look at this file, and again, it opens up as a text file, and you can see, oh, we have Karen here at the top. But you can see as you go across here, it has little labels, and these are all things you can change. So you can go in and you can change, you know, the player size, their team, what team number they're on. Now, some of these you have to be careful. They will break the game. Like if you put a team number here that's outside of the bounds of the regular team number, it could cause problems. So you do have to be careful with editing these individual fields. You might want to, you know, check on the Discord if this is a field that's okay to edit. Most of them are. A couple of them, like team member and all, could be, it may not cause a problem, but some of them will. And then you can go through here a lot of stats files. In this game, we have the stats saved within the file. That'll be different on my new game, and also when we get to Brutal Ball 2, I'm going to change that. But you can see here things like jersey number, their coloration, all these things. A lot of the stuff you can edit in the game, but you could edit it here. And so it has a lot of different things in here that you can go in and mess with. Are they in the Hall of Fame or not? So lots of things you can go through and go and mess with. I'm not going to talk about each one of these, but it's pretty easy. Now, the bigger thing that some people are talking about is like making their own customized league, or taking players and like cutting and pasting them or something. A couple of things. If you want to like unretire a player, this is probably one of the bigger ones. If you take a look, you go down here. There is a couple of true false ones, and here RT is retired. This tells you if the player is retired or not. This is the main field that shows whether they're going to be able to appear on a roster, or whether they're not going to be put on it. They're going to be going to be retired, so they won't be appearing on a roster. So if you say, somebody was talking about taking and creating a new league with old retired players, or with players that were dropped, or something of that nature, the main thing you have to go in and do is you need to go in and change all of these, anybody that was retired from your league, from true to false. If you change it to false, they will not be retired, and they will appear on rosters. Otherwise, they won't appear on your team's rosters. They will only appear like in the stat screen and stuff like that. So you need to unretire them. That's the main thing you need to do if you want to bring a person back into the league. There also is a field for killed by, if they've been killed by someone, and then there is a field is undead. is alive. So they also need to be alive. So if they're dead, and if they're undead, they will be, let's see, you can see here, they are alive and they're undead. So undead means they've come back to life from being dead, right? And so is alive means, so if they're not alive, they will not appear on any rosters as well. So you need to make sure they're not retired, and you need to make sure they're not dead, that they are alive, and they will appear on your roster. So that's one thing that you can go in and edit. Now, so if you wanted to sort of create your own league and grab players from different leagues, all you'd have to do is take this player text file, create a league, create a new player text file. The biggest thing you have to be careful about is make sure you have enough players on each of the teams, although that may not be a huge problem. And all you have to do is you can copy and paste each of these columns. So you just need, for the player file, so that's why I say create a blank player file, or create a player file, create a new, say I want to create a new league, and I want to use a bunch of retired players from another league, or drop players from another league, or have some kind of minor league, or whatever you want to do with this. All you have to do is you create a league, your minor league. It's going to create players. It's going to put them in a draft, and then you just go through and you delete either all or most of those players, and then you can come in and copy and paste rows of these players into the text file. All you need to make sure you have is that you have to have this title up top, just a title bar. You can, if you mess with this title bar, it's gonna, every time it saves, it's gonna revert back to the old title bar. But you need to make sure you at least have this one title bar here, and then after that, start putting in, copying and pasting the whole line of the entire player. You just have to make sure you have to have everything. If there's some of these missing, then it won't work. Your file will get corrupted. So, but usually it's something you can fix if you do it. But basically, you just copy and paste, and that's it. So it's pretty easy to work with. If you're interested in modding or going through and creating your own things, you can change what teams people on. There's lots of stuff you can do if you're really interested in creating something unique and different. I will say that Brutal Ball 2 and probably in Brutal World, I will be having export and import features, so you'll be able to export teams and rosters and all from one league to another. So that will be a feature that will be in Brutal Ball 2. I think at this point, it looks like Brutal Ball 2 will probably be coming out probably, I'm thinking, about a year or so. So I'm not going to go back and do all the work for this one. But you'll have some of those kind of import export features that will be useful in Brutal Ball 2. Also, remember, in game you can export retired players. You can have an export of retired players each year, and you can also import them as draft classes. So that's something you can already do in game if you have those settings set. So that's another option you have. So anybody want to do any kind of messing around or modding with this? We've already had some people making their own tools and all. Welcome to ask questions. I'll be glad to help as much as possible. So just hop on the Discord and ask away. But it's pretty easy. And again, as long as you back up your folder, all you have to do is, like I did here, all you do is make a copy. Like, if this is your league, you just make a copy of it, and it's safe. Your one is safe. We have zips of all these. We copy them on here, so it's pretty easy to save and back up. So don't be too afraid. As long as you save the backup, then you can play around, mess around as much as you want. And if you have any trouble running into anything, feel free to just hop on and ask. There are a lot of people over there to help. A lot of people have done some modding already, and I'd be willing to help as well. So that's about it. Anybody else have any questions? Feel free to come on the Discord and ask away. And I hope you guys are having fun with Brutal Ball. Adios.